Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. So this movie came back out in 2021 and I'm just now seeing it. I've been putting it off for the longest time because one, I don't go to movie theaters, two, I don't do Netflix, and three, it's finally on Stars. Man, Stars is a weird streaming app. Like, it's cheap like I don't know what when you can catch a sale. Like, I'm only paying about like $1 and like 12 cents or something like that from like this deal they had like a couple of months back. And so with them, if you try to cancel right before your subscription is over, they'll try to weasel you back in by like, look, we'll give you 3 months for 99 cents. It's kind of like, cool, but there ain't much on their app to watch. Because once you watch everything, you're done. But then they always bring in some new stuff. But for the first time, something strange happened. I haven't watched anything on there in a while. And so when I went to go start to watch this new show, it wouldn't let me, even though I'm still paying for it. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And so, like, it says if you're using their app on 6 different devices, they won't let you watch until you delete some of those devices. I'm like, but I only watch on my TV. I'll sign on the computer just to check and see when my subscription is up, but that's about it. So every freaking time you log on, they clock that as a different device. I'm all like, that's so stupid. So I had to like delete a bunch of those. But anyways, yes, I'm new to this movie and everything. And so this is just my thoughts. And honestly, I do not like it. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I started back when I was in college. I think back in 2002, I believe, is when the first Resident Evil movie came out. The one with Mila Djokovic and everything. And I remember I saw the trailer and I didn't know what a Resident Evil was at that time. And the internet really wasn't the internet. I mean, yeah, you could research stuff, but there was no Wikipedia. And so, like, I just loved that movie for like the action, the storytelling, the zombies and everything. But I didn't know what a Resident Evil was or how big in scope it was or that it was based on video games. So as the years passed, I did my research. I never played the games. And when it comes to the Mila movies, I only like the first 3 movies. After that, I just can't do it. They're horrible and everything. But then I started watching the CGI movies, and those are really, really good. And they're closer to that of the video game. And also, they're an extension of the video games and everything. So that's like really cool. And so, like, when it comes to Resident Evil, everything was quiet until like Netflix came out with that Infinite Crisis or Infinite something. And that television show sucked so bad. It seems like every time they try to reboot or have a sequel or something with the Resident Evil IP, it ends up sucking. I know they had a live action television on Netflix and that only lasted for 1 season and I heard it was crap. So, like, it's just not looking good for the Resident Evil movie franchise unless it's the CGI one. And there's one CGI one I haven't seen yet, the Island movie, because I can't find no streaming service that I have that actually has it. And so, like, originally I was looking forward to this movie because it's kind of like, okay, a rebooted movie. They say they're going to be closer to the source material. That's always a good thing. It's no longer going to be about Alice no more. And I'm like, thank God, because, I respect the heck out of Mila. She's one of the best action stars there is. And, and being a female too and stuff. But I just can't take her movies no more. The Alice like movies, it's weird when they was trying to do their own thing, and then they later started to incorporate more and more of the game. It just started getting convoluted and everything. Like fans were never happy because you have the fans who are not fans of the video game, and then you have fans that are fans of the video game, and they kept clashing, and even they were just never happy and everything. Each movie started to get worse and worse and worse and worse. The continuity is all over the place. The end credit scenes don't make no sense to the beginning of the next movie. And like I said before, the continuity, like what continuity? It is like, well, just create whatever they wanted to create and everything. So that franchise, as much money as it made, is just not very good and everything. So I was looking for something like newer, something closer to that of the games to get me more connected and everything, similar to that of the CGI movies, because the CGI movies are standalone movies that are connected to like the game and stuff, but they're not actually based on no individual game. So with this being closer to the source material, I'm like, okay, maybe we got something going on here. And then I saw how everybody looked, and I'm all like, I don't recognize nobody. Like, I don't recognize nobody. I don't recognize Claire. I don't recognize Chris. I don't recognize Leon. I don't recognize Jill. Like, I don't recognize nobody. I don't even recognize, what's his name? Westler or Whisker or something like that. I don't even recognize that dude. I'm just like, who the heck is who? And here's my thing. I don't care if they race bend a character. I don't care about that. But at least get the hairstyle right and at least get the personality right and everything. However, this is based on the first two movies and everybody's personality was slightly different back then from what I've read. And so since this is based on the first two games, if I said movies before, my bad, it's based on the first two games, Leon is technically a rookie. I'm like, my God, did he have to be this spineless and everything? I'm used to seeing Leon as like very confident, very heroic, very stilted, very calculated and everything from the CGI movies and everything. That CGI movie made me a huge fan of his. And I've never liked no live action version of Leon. I didn't like him in the Mila movies, and I did not like him here. But I do recognize a lot of the stars and everything. I think his name Neil Madonna, I think it is. I've seen that dude in so much stuff. What's his name? The Cooper dude. He was in the Umbrella Academy. I remember him. That one dude who was in Grounded for Life. He was like the police chief or whatever. I recognize him. He was in the Blade movie and he's been in everything. I've seen that dude in everything. And I also recognize the curly haired guy from like Leather Kenny and everything. Everybody else, I have no idea who they are. But like, I recognize like a lot of the cast. And, going into this, I was kind of like, cool, they're going to be some characters from the games I've never even heard of before. And like the scientist doctor dude and stuff, it's like, I've never seen him before. So I'm like, cool, this is going to be neat and everything. And I was just so confused and so uninterested what happened. I started watching this a month ago, and then I had to finish it a month later because I was so uninterested in it. And it was not scary whatsoever. Like, the only parts that was cool is when Robbie Amell, God, I can't stand that actor. Ever since I saw him in True Jackson back in the day as a teenager, I've always thought he was a horrible actor. But he was okay as Fred in the live action Scooby-Doo, but just okay. And I remember him from the Arrowverse, and I just can't with his acting and stuff. He's the cousin of Stephen Amell, who was Green Arrow in the Arrowverse on the CW. But the cool part with him is when he was fighting that one zombie and like, the light started flickering when he was shooting, and then he kept using the lighter to like see this one zombie and stuff. But like, my problems with this movie has to do with how it was written, how it was directed, how it was cast, and the lame CGI. See, back in the day, in 2017, this movie got greenlit. And so originally, Greg Russo and James Wan was gonna make this movie. But they later left because of creative differences and stuff. And in came the writer slash director, Jonas Roberts. And I don't really know who he is. He's created some other stuff I've either never watched or just didn't like. And so, like, yeah. He's supposed to be making a new movie about something. I think it's called Fear or something like that. I can't remember. He's supposed to write and direct that. Look, even when the worst of the worst Mila movies tend to be written better than this, and that's a lot saying because those movies are not that good. You got a bit of a problem. The problem I have with the writing in this movie is that it feels like it's a streaming show where you watch episodic episodes that are all smashed into one movie and stuff. And because it's like a 90-minute movie, I think. Because I see it was an hour, 47 minutes, but then there was 10 minutes in credits. And so, yeah, it's like 90 something minutes. And it just feels like a bunch of stuff clumped together and smushed all into one. Basing it on two different games probably wasn't the best idea. And especially when like the second Resident Evil movie was actually really good. That was also based on the second game. I just didn't like the sped up like fighting and everything in that movie. But like I just wasn't a fan of the writing. Like it felt like nothing really came together the way it was supposed to be, and it felt very rushed and very clumpy and everything. Like the thing about the Mila movies, say what you will, at least they have logical reasons as to why something happens and why they're in certain situations, at least in the first three movies. After that, they just went kind of bonkers in the head. But at least in the first three movies, they came up with legit reasons as to why this, and that happened and why this character shows up. Or why, at least for Jill Valentine in the second movie, why she wore her iconic blue outfit in the black skirt. It makes no sense in a movie like this, just like it didn't make no sense whatsoever when Ada Wong showed up in her legendary red dress, I think like in the fifth or sixth movie. That didn't make no sense because back then they just didn't care. They were just throwing slop together. But at least in the second movie, they had sense. She was out and about just her regular day because she was suspended from the force. And when everything went crazy, she ran to her police force in her like street clothes and everything. And that's why she was in that blue and black outfit. And so, like, and it's funny because they try to give like an Easter egg in this movie to the new Jill Valentine with having blue fingernail polish and everything. A weird Easter egg, but whatever. And so, like, at least they had logical reasons as to why things happened. A logical reason why they had to go to the mansion, why they went to the hive, why the computer tried to kill everybody. Yeah, they made a bunch of stuff up and added stuff that was never in the games, but at least it made sense in the confines of the movie. And, when it comes to Resident Evil movies, no matter what, I'm never really scared, but there's been a couple of occasions where I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Oh no, they're going to get this person. Oh no, they got this person. I never felt that way in this movie. Nothing felt scary. And one of the reasons why nothing felt scary because everything was just extremely rushed. There were no people on the streets. And the reason for that is because of COVID and everything. It really screwed things up. So you didn't see people running in the street. You did see zombies, but like whatever, you know what I'm saying? And the zombies did not look that impressive. Even the prosthetic makeup just didn't look that impressive. And it's not hard to do a zombie movie. Look at The Walking Dead, a television show. they have spoiled us rotten on zombie culture that when you see something like this, you're just like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And like, the liquor did look pretty interesting. The CGI on that was a bit updated, a bit more than that of like the first two movies sometimes. But sometimes in the first movie, I think in the first and second it was all CGI. In the second one, they was really CGI. But at least this one looked a little bit more real. The dogs, however, oh my god, dude, like get real dogs and put makeup and prosthetics on them. That CGI dog looked like it came from a video game from the 90s and everything. And a couple of other stuff was kind of here, not there, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm glad they introduced the G virus. Like, about freaking time. I remember that from the CGI movies. And that same monster dude from the CGI movie is in this one. However, the fight scene in the CGI movie was a heck of a lot stronger than just a couple of minutes of them fighting the scientist dude and then blowing him up with a rocket launcher. And when they blew him up, he literally went into dust. I mean, whatever. Like, they did not have a budget for this. How do you not have a budget for this? And it's a freaking movie. See, originally when this came out, I thought for sure this was a Netflix movie. But no, it's an actual theatrical movie with a budget of $25 million. And it only made $45 million global. That's embarrassing. This should have been at least 100 million and everything. This feels like a fan film or like a college student film, but way worse. And so, like, I was not feeling the CGI monsters. Also, I wanted more of a logical reason as to why these monsters are escaping or created. I mean, at least in the Mila movies, they give you a logical explanation as to why a liquor shows up or why a tyrant shows up or why whatever shows up, you know? And so, yeah, I know they got experimented on the orphanage and everything, but come on. Like, come on. That was a long time ago. Come on. And so, like, I don't know. I give them credit for trying, but they should have tried harder. I just really wish they would have tried harder and everything. Because the story was not impactful, there wasn't that much scary horror stuff. I do appreciate, however, how they tried to stick to the source material of like Wesker being like, part of the task force and everything, and like him working for Umbrella, and Leon being a rookie, and you got like, the brother and sister, Redfields and everything. So I do appreciate, a lot of the source material they did cram into this movie. It should have been longer, and they should have just focused on one game or one element of the movie and stuff. And it's just like your leads are not leadable. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. Like, I would never cast Robbie Amnell as like a lead. Like, I just wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, these people don't feel like they're video game counterparts. And yeah, like I said before, I know, in the first two games they were a bit different, but they're not used to what I'm used to when I watch these other CGI movies and stuff. Or when I watch a trailer for like a video game and stuff. And it's just kind of like, this was just a big mistake in my opinion. And, you can't blame it all on COVID either, because the casting director messed up. The director dude messed up. The studio messed up, and it's just kind of like, this just wasn't good enough. And when Raccoon City got destroyed and everything, was it taken out by a nuke? Because if so, at the end, when everybody walked out superhero style from underground, it's like they're breathing in toxic air and everything, you know? Like, how are they able to do that? But basically, the story is just like, Claire is like, what is it? She's hitchhiking, and a dude who she caught a ride with got bit by like a zombie. She makes it back to her home. She's looking for her brother. The police force are trying to figure out what the heck is going on, as the police chief is so shady because the town's about to get like exploded and everything. You have a task force going to like the mansion, and Wesker is like, secretly like, undercover, like a spy type dude. And like, they just fight a bunch of zombies in a very boring kind of way. And a bunch of monsters, and the monsters get taken out in a very boring way. And so, like, they're on a train for some bizarre reason, like an underground train, and they had to make it out of like the building, and it crumbles. You don't really see no big explosion, and they walk out superhero style, only for Wesker to get like enhanced and have to wear shades. And Ada Wong shows up, and it just feels like a fever dream or something like that. Now, wasn't that spooky? All right, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.